Hello, my name is Father Bill Barron. I'm the pastor of the Moshannon Catholic Church grouping, which includes St. Mary's Church in Frenchville, St. Severin Church in Drifting, St. Peter and Paul in Hawk Run, St. Peter and Paul in Grass Flat, and St. Agnes in Morrisdale. This video is to explain some additional important information about our churches merging. As you may have heard in the announcement from last week, Bishop Persico, the Bishop of the Diocese of Erie, has announced that St. Mary's Parish in Frenchville, St. Peter and Paul Mission Church Grass Flat, and St. Peter and Paul Mission Church Hawk Run are going to merge into St. Agnes Parish effective December 1st. St. Severin's Church in Drifting will become a secondary mission church of St. Agnes Parish. So first of all, why is this happening? Well, the Diocese of Erie needs to draw its remaining parishioners into less church communities to give those communities an opportunity to rebound and potentially grow. As you probably know, almost all the Catholic churches in this region of the United States of America, this northeastern region, have been in decline, and that decline has intensified over the past, say, 5 to 10 years. So the current thing that we're doing is not working. And of course, too, since we don't have the baptism of marriages in the parishes, then therefore we don't have vocations to the priesthood. So we have less priests getting ordained. And so we have the situation that's come up where you have one priest, like for my example, like last year I had one priest taking care of 6 churches. I'm glad that that's not the case anymore. It's too much for any priest to have to take care of. But we don't want to have our priests in those situations in 3-5 years down the road, which they most certainly will be if we don't restructure. So, it's not particularly because I can't do what I'm doing currently or because you can't do what you're doing currently. It's because of the situation that all the dioceses face in this area of the country and the need to consolidate so we can give our communities a chance to rebound potentially. That's why this is happening, okay? But at any rate, here's some information. This is going to be shared in the bulletin this week as well. So I'm just going to read it to you. Important information about churches merging. First of all, the Mass schedule. I've yet to determine the Mass schedule after December 1. I will communicate that information shortly to you. Mass intentions. All currently scheduled Mass intentions will be honored. They will be transferred to the new location and time that the Mass will be offered on the already scheduled date. The Diocese of Erie gives us permission to offer 2 Mass intentions on a given day in these circumstances, and that is what we will do until we can get back to having 1 Mass a day. The St. Agnes Mass book is generally pretty open, only a month or 2 out at this time. Daily Masses are available a month out, sometimes the month of. The St. Mary's Mass account will be merged into the St. Agnes Mass account on December 1st. Sacramental celebrations in the Frenchville, Grass Flat, and Hawk Run churches. Holy Mass will be offered at the Frenchville, Grass Flat, and Hawk Run churches on the feast day of the saint to whom the church is dedicated. So, for example, Saints Peter and Paul, or on the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Also, funerals, weddings, and baptisms may take place in the church whenever they are necessary and as they have been in the past. The churches will maintain their current unlocking schedules, and individual groups are welcome to use the space for prayer. The Blessed Sacrament will be only reposed in these churches for the 14 days before and the 14 days after a Mass has been offered in that church building. Otherwise, canon law dictates that the Blessed Sacrament cannot be reserved in the church. That's not Father Bill's law, that's canon law in the Roman Catholic Church. And everything that I'm doing here is in accordance with the canons of the church and with accordance of civil law as well. Parish, i.e. pastoral council and finance council. Since there will be only one parish entity, St. Agnes, responsible for the territory currently served by the two parishes, St. Agnes and St. Mary's in Frenchville, there will only be one pastoral council and one finance council. Non-parishioners cannot belong to a parish's pastoral council or finance council. So, in order to belong to the councils that will come into being after December 1, members will need to be registered at either St. Agnes or St. Severin's churches. All current parish pastoral council members are invited by me to retain their membership on the council after the merger. I will contact current finance council members at St. Mary's Parish to ask some of them to join the St. Agnes St. Severin Finance Council, and I intend 6 members for that council, the finance council that is. Selling property. If you've heard anything to the effect that we are going to sell any property or buildings at St. Mary's, Hawk Run, or Grass Flat, that's not true. It is a completely premature decision to have. So let's see how our communities come together over the next few months, and let's see how the financial realities shape up. And I think time will tell if or when that would be a good idea or not to sell a building or land or both. Current employees and volunteers have agreed with me to continue to take care of their property as they've been doing, and I thank them very much for that. It is important that the properties not fall in disrepair or uncleanliness, even though they're not being used as often as they were in the past. It's worth noting that any selling of property would require consultation with the Finance Council and Parish Council and the written consent of the bishop. In the case of selling a church building, this cannot even be considered until there is a removal of the dedication of that building for use of divine worship. This is a process, that removal of that dedication is a process that requires the consent of the Finance and Parish Council and a petition by the pastor to the bishop, and then the consent of the Diocesan Presbyteral Council in a decree by the bishop. All current rentals on Frenchville properties will be honored, and we are still taking facilities usage requests for the Frenchville property and for the other properties as well. Contact Amy Rolls to reserve any part of the grounds in Frenchville. Moving money. When a church merges into another parish, their corporate identity ceases. This is why bank accounts must be merged. Don't have a choice in the matter. They have to be merged. This is why parish societies such as rosary societies cannot continue as currently incorporated. Certainly they probably will continue in an, unofficial manner, or they could be incorporated in a different way, but not as a parish rosary society. If the parish ceases, then its rosary society can't be incorporated in the same way as it has been. I've decided that we will institute at St. Agnes Parish a separate account for each of the 3 merged churches, one for Frenchville, one for Grass Flat, and one for Hawk Run. Each of those accounts will be available to be deposited into for 2 purposes. For the number 1, for the conducting of business formerly conducted by the former Rosary Society of that church, and secondly, for the maintaining of parish property. It may also include the paying of utilities on that property. All bills regarding the utilities and maintenance of that church property will be paid from that account, if that account has the monies to cover those bills. If those accounts do not have the funds to cover such bills, then St. Agnes accounts will have to cover those bills. Such an account would be used for the conducting of the Frenchville picnic. An envelope will be included in the St. Agnes and St. Severin's envelopes for the Frenchville, Grass Flat, and Hawk Run churches as a building fund. Also, an envelope for cemetery care and concern for Frenchville, Grass Flat, and Hawk Run churches will be instituted in the St. Agnes envelopes. This is important. If you make a check out to the building fund for Frenchville, Hawk Run, and Grass Flat, you have to make a check out to St. Agnes Church and place in the memo line of the check that you wish for the money to be deposited into your church's building fund account, and then that will instruct us to do so. If necessary, for the cemetery, you'd make the check out to the cemetery, clearly. We'll talk about cemeteries in a second. If necessary, I will reimburse St. Agnes's checking account from these building fund accounts for expenses incurred in the maintenance and utilities of any one of these 3 secondary church locations: Frenchville, Grass Flat, or Hawk Run. So, if St. Agnes had to pay $500 worth of utilities for Frenchville, and the building fund was low and couldn't cover that, so St. Agnes checking account had to cover that. And then the Frenchville building account attained $500 in it, then I would consider transferring that $500 over into the St. Agnes checking account to reimburse them for having to pick up the expenses for Frenchville. And this may be necessary because with not having offertory like Frenchville particularly, but certainly Grass Flat and Hawk Run, may not have a constant stream of income coming into it all the time that can cover these bills. So hence the need then to reimburse St. Agnes's checking account with monies from these respective building funds for the payment of their utilities and upkeep. Frenchville Picnic. The continuance of the Frenchville Picnic will be up to the volunteers who run the picnic. I'm certainly in favor of it, but it's going to be up to them. They're the ones who pull it off. I think that it can be a very successful event still, even though the community will not have the Saturday Mass as its focal point anymore. Obviously, a community in Frenchville remains, and it will need something to be centered around other than the weekend Mass. Again, if the volunteers feel that they don't want to do it, I respect that. Possibly we need to recruit more volunteers to shore up the vitality of this event, because sometimes these events the weight fall too disproportionately on particular people or small groups of people. So it's important to the Frenchville community, even beyond the church community. So that's my thoughts about the Frenchville Picnic. I will give Amy Rolls access to the St. Agnes accounts to continue to be the financial office manager for both the Frenchville and the Cooper picnics. You may relate to her for the financial business of those events as you have in the past. So when those come up in 2024, they're running financially as they've had in past years. Relate to Amy, not to Rosemary Clodges, the Morrisdale secretary. Cemeteries. The cemetery business of St. Mary's in Frenchville, St. Peter and Paul, Grass Flat, and St. Peter and Paul, Hawk Run will continue as presently conducted. The cemetery office is going to remain in Frenchville with Amy Rolls as the cemetery office manager. All records pertaining to these cemeteries will remain at St. Mary's. All investments and checking accounts will remain as currently comprised. Cemeteries always survive their churches. No money is ever to be transferred from a cemetery account into another account unless the cemetery account were to go bankrupt, in which case there would be no money to transfer, right? I mean, cemeteries cease function when they run out of money, basically. That's the only time cemeteries cease function. And then if that were ever to happen, the cemetery would have to be taken care of by the succeeding parish. So St. Agnes is going to be the backstop for all these parish cemeteries, but I think these cemeteries are provided for pretty well right now, and I don't have any concerns about them for a long time. All current lot easements remain in force. So you own a lot, you have a lot. That hasn't changed. Current cemetery personnel have agreed to continue to carry out their responsibilities in maintaining their respective cemeteries. Also, an envelope for cemetery care and concern for Frenchville, Grass Flat, and Hawk Run churches will be instituted in the St. Agnes envelopes. So we're also going to maintain the phone number up at St. Mary's and email addresses so that you can get in touch with Amy to conduct the cemetery business. So we're not getting rid of that stuff. That's going to be maintained. But we are going to merge, excuse me, a lot of the office tasks. Almost all of the parish side of the office tasks are going to be merged into the Morrisdale office. So effective December 1, the parish business part of the Frenchville office will merge into the Morrisdale office. Again, cemetery business will remain at St. Mary's for Frenchville, Grass Flat, and drifting cemeteries. What this means is that the bulletin will be run out of the Morrisdale office. The Morrisdale office will retain all sacramental records for Frenchville, drifting, and Grass Flat churches. All bills for Frenchville, Hawk Run, Grass Flat, drifting, and Morrisdale will be paid. All monies will be deposited for those 5 places, and all those monies will be accounted for out of the Morrisdale office. Hall rentals and other facilities usage requests need to be communicated to the Morrisdale office by Frenchville and drifting hall managers so that the parish office in Morrisdale knows when the facilities are being used. And also when the groves are used, Morrisdale office needs to know. When the churches are used, Morrisdale office needs to know. And the pastor reserves the right to turn down facilities usage requests if he wants to, but he needs to know about them. So just be aware of that. Mass intentions will be scheduled from the Morrisdale office. There'll be 1 mass book after December 1. Old records, old parish records at St. Mary's will be purged. There are time limitations for how long you have to keep certain records. And so we're going to find out those time limitations and get rid of the old records. And then all the current records that fit into that time retention window are going to be transferred eventually to the St. Agnes Parish office. We're not going to accomplish that in a month. It's probably going to take a better part of a year to do that. If you needed access to records, we'll help you figure out how to get access to the records. Finally and lastly, concerns particular to St. Severin's. Until December 1, St. Severin's and Drifting will be a secondary mission church of St. Mary's in Frenchville. After December 1, it will be a secondary mission church of St. Agnes. So it will continue its current operations in an unchanged manner in all respects. After December 1, St. Agnes will fulfill the operational roles currently being rendered to St. Severin's that are being rendered to them now by St. Mary's. So, you still have the parish backing your mission church and Drifting, but instead of that parish being in Frenchville, it's going to be in Morrisdale. So this is going to be in the bulletin this weekend, all that I just said. And so at any rate, it's a long video, but if you're really watching this video, you probably want to know what the details are about this stuff. So the length of the video probably won't bother you that much. At any rate, let's continue to pray for one another. It's a time where sometimes we'll pull together, sometimes we'll pull apart. It's a hard time, but entrust yourself to Jesus. Don't leave the faith. Don't lose the faith because of church decisions you don't agree with, because the faith is more important than that. So may God bless you, and thank you.